Let me begin by telling you something astonishing. You are far more powerful than you think. The mind that you call your own is not isolated, nor is it separate from the minds of others. You believe you are one individual thinking your thoughts, walking your path, dreaming your dreams. But I tell you, your consciousness is not confined to a body. You are infinite. And if you would only test this power, you would discover that you can make anyone think of you, not by force, but by the law. Now listen closely. For what I'm about to reveal to you is not theory, it is law, immutable and eternal. You have only one mind, and that mind is infinite. It is God in action, and when you commune with another in imagination, when you hear their voice in your mind and feel the thrill of their presence, you are not talking to a shadow. You are planting seeds in the only soil that brings forth fruit. Your consciousness. Do you want your specific person to think about you? Then stop searching outwardly and begin inwardly. All transformation is from within. You do not beg, you do not plead, you do not chase. You assume. Assume the state where they already are thinking of you. Feel the thrill of receiving their message. Imagine hearing them say, "I couldn't stop thinking about you today." And believe it, for what you accept as true in your imagination becomes fact in your world. You must begin with the foundation that consciousness is the only reality. There is no one to convince but yourself. If you can persuade yourself that they are thinking of you, that they desire you, that they feel drawn to you, then that assumption, though unseen, will become your experience. For you move through states, not through conditions. Change your state, and the condition must reflect it. Consciousness is the only reality. There is no power outside of your own awareness. All that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your own wonderful human imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. You must come to a place where you no longer attribute causation to the outer world, no longer blaming another or crediting another for anything in your experience. There is only one source, and that source is your own consciousness. Everything proceeds from within. There is no other foundation. If you would transform your world or influence the mind of another, you must first accept this fundamental truth. All things exist in consciousness, and nothing exists outside of it. Begin here, with the realization that the man you see, the woman you love, the specific person you desire to influence, they are not separate from you. They are part of the dream, and you are the dreamer. The world is not objective. It is not happening to you. It is happening through you, in response to what you are conscious of being. If you say, "They are not thinking of me," and feel it deeply, you have claimed that state. You have accepted its reality in your own mind, and the world will faithfully mirror it back to you. But if you would assume instead, "They think of me constantly," and dwell in that assumption until it feels natural, then you have planted the seed of a new reality, and in time it must bear fruit. There is no telepathy in the way the world understands it. There are no two minds reaching across some invisible thread. There is only one mind appearing as many. Just as a dream contains countless figures, each with their own dialogue and gestures, yet all springing from one imagination, so too does this waking life. Every person you encounter is animated by your own consciousness. They are your beliefs objectified. They are your assumptions made flesh. If you believe a person loves you, then in your world they do. If you believe they are cold and distant, then they must be. They are not sovereign in your world. You are. And what you accept as true of another, within yourself, they must express without knowing why. They do not act independently of your assumptions. They are not aware that they are carrying out the contents of your inner conversations, but they do it faithfully, without deviation, For the simple reason that there is no one else. You are alone in your world. The only reality is your own state of consciousness, and this state is not static, it is fluid. You move through states as you move through cities. Each state carries with it its own circumstances, its own people, its own reflections. Change your state, and your world changes accordingly. It is not magic, it is law. You do not beg for someone's attention. You do not plead for their thoughts. You become the version of yourself that is already known, already desired, already loved. You rise in consciousness. You do not wait for proof, you become the proof. You must claim the feeling of being thought of and persist in it until it hardens into fact. This is not imagination as the world defines it. It is spiritual sensation. You are not pretending, you are selecting. Out of the infinite states, you choose the one where your desire is already fulfilled. And having chosen it, you live in it inwardly until it surrounds you outwardly. Every event, every message, every conversation is a reflection of your own inner speech. That inner monologue you carry from moment to moment, that is the cause of all. Change it, and the effect must change. Do not look to others. Do not try to influence their mind by effort or force. Instead, know that their mind is your own consciousness objectified. What you impress upon yourself is impressed upon them. When you think of your specific person and feel the emotion of being remembered, cherished, loved, you are not merely fantasizing. You are planting, and your world, being your garden, must grow what you have sown. So remember, all technique, all effort, all doing is secondary to this great truth. Consciousness is the only reality. You are not dealing with others. You are dealing with your own awareness of being. The moment you accept this, you become free. You do not need to persuade. You only need to assume. And when you persist in the assumption that they are thinking of you, that they long for you, that they are drawn irresistibly to your presence, then they will be, for they are nothing but your concept of them, externalized. What you believe of another, you breathe into life. What you assume they think, they begin to think. What you feel, they feel. For there is no separation. All is one. All is consciousness. All is you. There is no one to change but self. That is the beginning and the end of all transformation. Until this truth is accepted, you remain bound to shadows, battling effects while ignoring the cause. You believe that the problem lies with another, that if they would just love you, if they would just return, if they would just see your worth, then all will be well. But I tell you, they cannot see what you do not assume yourself to be. You must stop trying to change the mirror and instead change the face that looks into it. You must stop reaching for them and start reaching within. For the world is only yourself pushed out. The moment you realize that everything proceeds from the state you occupy, you cease to be a victim of circumstance. You no longer blame. You no longer wait. You no longer react. You act inwardly. You become deliberate. You understand that the behavior of another is simply your inner assumptions objectified, that people are compelled to play their part as you have cast them in imagination. If they are cold, perhaps you have assumed yourself unworthy of warmth. If they are distant, perhaps you have imagined them so. But if you dare to revise your concept of self, if you dare to assume that you are now loved, now chosen, now desired, then they must conform. You cannot control another, but you can change the state from which you view them, and doing so, change everything. You must lift yourself into the state where you are already seen, already wanted, already remembered. You must no longer say, "They never think of me," for that is an act of creation. Every word spoken within is a seed. If you continue to affirm lack, absence, rejection, then do not be surprised when the outer world mirrors that very thing. But if you rise in consciousness and claim, I am remembered, I am loved, I am the one they long to speak to, then you have changed the cause, and the effect must follow. It is not their resistance that delays your desire. It is your belief in their resistance that keeps it alive. You look at their silence and call it rejection, but what you are really doing is perpetuating a state within yourself that demands silence. For they are only reflecting what you believe is true of them. If you would but revise your concept of them, without needing their permission, without asking them to agree, you would see the entire relationship change. For they have no power except what you give them in imagination. You have clothed them in qualities, and now you react to the image you have wrapped them in. Strip away the mask, and you will find your own assumption staring back. The great secret is that all change begins within. There is no outside force shaping your experience. You are the shaper, the potter, the dreamer, and your specific person is responding to your self-concept, not to your words, not to your pleas, but to the tone of being you carry when you think of them. If you feel lack, they show you lack. If you feel confidence, they move closer. If you feel remembered, they remember you. It is not manipulation, it is law. Consciousness moves in perfect order. What you accept as true becomes the fabric of your life. Do not ask them to change. Do not wait for them to reach out so you can feel worthy. You must reverse the order. Feel worthy now. See yourself through new eyes, and when you do, they must follow. They are only playing the role that your inner drama has written. Change the script, and they forget the lines of the old story. You are not begging for attention. You are awakening to your power, the power to assume, the power to feel, the power to dwell in a new state, and in so doing, evoke a new response from the world. They cannot help but mirror you. Even their resistance is an echo of your disbelief, but you are not bound to your current state. You can rise at any moment into the assumption of being loved. You can close your eyes, hear their voice in imagination, feel their presence, and know, truly know, that what you accept as done within is done without. There is no other being to convince. You need not change them. Change yourself. Believe differently about yourself, and the world will rearrange itself to reflect that belief. So when you look upon your specific person, do not look to change their behavior. Look instead at the story you have been telling yourself. The thoughts you think when their name crosses your mind, the feelings you dwell in when you imagine them. For that is the place of power. That is the only cause. All else is effect. And if you would change the reflection, you must change the image that casts it. You must become, in consciousness, the one you desire to be. And the world, including the specific person you think of, will bend itself to reflect the self you have chosen. Imagination is the medium of transmission. It is not a tool to be reached for occasionally, nor is it a passive daydreaming faculty. It is the lifeblood of creation itself. Through imagination, you impress ideas upon the subconscious, and through the subconscious, the world takes shape. Nothing moves in your outer world until it first moves within. Imagination, if you would send a message to another, if you would implant an idea or stir a memory or awaken desire in the heart of a specific person, it must be done in imagination and nowhere else. This is the only language the universe understands. You may speak aloud, you may write, you may reach out with trembling hands, hoping they will respond, but unless the communication first takes place in imagination, all out efforts are fruitless. For the outer world is only the out-picturing of your inner conversations. All true contact is made in consciousness, and the method is simple. You imagine what you desire as though it were already true. You do not ask if they heard you. You do not wonder if it worked. You assume that it did, and you rest in that knowing. Your imagination is not bound by time or space. It is not limited to your body. You can sit quietly in one room and reach across oceans, reach into minds, stir thoughts, awaken forgotten feelings, and the one you think of, though unaware in their waking mind, receives the impression you have sent. For there is no separation. The being you imagine is not elsewhere. They are within you. When you construct a scene in which they smile at you, speak to you, think of you, desire you, you are not merely hoping, you are transmitting. That image, felt with vividness and belief, is sent out from the depths of your own being and received in theirs. You do not need their permission. You need only your conviction. Imagination believes before it sees, and in believing it calls the unseen into form. What you dare to assume, when assumed with feeling, becomes the law of your world. You do not have to wonder how they will respond. They will respond according to the image you have made alive within you. Thought clothed in emotion is a living thing. It has the power to shape, to call, to attract, to magnetize. If you sit and imagine your specific person reaching out to you, longing for you, unable to forget you, and if that imagining is carried through with full attention and feeling, you will find yourself receiving exactly what you imagine. It will come in a way that seems natural, even coincidental, but it is not chance. It is law. You have transmitted the message in the only language that creates reality, imagination. You may not know the exact moment the seed will break through the surface, but it will, for all things bring forth after their kind. You plant love, you reap love. You plant rejection, you reap rejection. And you plant through imagination. The great error is to imagine what is not wanted and then wonder why it appears. You think of being ignored and then they ignore you. You imagine them cold and indifferent, and then you meet that reflection in your world. But if you would turn within and deliberately imagine being cherished, if you would feel the warmth of being remembered and desired, and persist in that assumption, then that image would go forth and return multiplied. For imagination, when impregnated with belief, sends out a vibration that must be matched. There is no power that can interfere with it, save your own doubt. But if you persist, your image becomes law. It is not repetition that makes imagination effective, but faith. You do not need to spend hours repeating words. One vivid imaginal act, felt in its fullness and accepted as true, is more powerful than 1,000 affirmations spoken without belief. When you construct a scene in your mind, let it be short, let it be simple, let it imply fulfillment. Hear their voice, saying what you long to hear. See their eyes filled with recognition. Feel their energy reaching for you, and then drop it. Let it go, knowing it has been transmitted. You are not sending thought as one would send a letter. You are selecting a reality, and having selected it in imagination, you begin to dwell there, not in hope, but in certainty. You carry the tone of fulfillment with you, and others feel it without knowing why. Your specific person, once held in that scene, once imagined in that state, begins to align without conscious awareness. Their mind responds, their behavior shifts, and they believe it is their own desire, their own choice. But you know the truth, that the image was first created within and transmitted through the only medium that ever existed, imagination. Assume they are thinking of you. Not tomorrow, not after a sign, not once they reach out. Now. This is not a game of waiting, nor a practice in probability. This is law. What you assume to be true of another must become your experience with them. If you persist in the assumption that you are forgotten, you are confirming your own exclusion from their mind. But if you claim, here and now, that you are in their thoughts, that your image rises gently and constantly within them, you awaken in consciousness a truth far deeper than mere hope. You begin to live from the state of being remembered, and that state, once fully occupied, will draw to you all things necessary to confirm it in form. This is not done with effort. It is done with inner conviction. There is no need to ask if they are thinking of you. That question arises only when you are out of the state. The moment you dwell in the assumption, the question disappears. You no longer ask, you know. You no longer seek signs, you become the sign. Thought responds to thought, and what you accept as real within yourself becomes a suggestion to the world without. You are not trying to change them. You are not sending out energy or willing them to remember you. You are simply shifting into a state where they already do. To assume is to clothe yourself in the feeling of fulfillment. It is to walk through your day with the calm and natural certainty that you are held in the heart. You are not waiting for evidence, you are the evidence. You live from the end, not toward it. And because you do, all that is needed will be added unto you. If you wait to see it before believing it, you will wait forever. But if you believe it before you see it, you will cause it to appear, or your assumption, firmly held, is more real than the seeming facts of the world. If you imagine them thinking of you and feel the delight of that thought, if you hear their voice within, feel their warmth, sense their energy surrounding you, then you have stepped into a new state. And the outer world must conform. It cannot resist. It is not independent. It is not separate. You are not hoping to influence. You are creating. The image you hold becomes the pattern from which the world must form its response. They may not know why you crossed their mind. They may not understand the sudden urge to reach for their phone, to revisit old messages, to wonder how you are, to feel a stirring of warmth where there was once distance. But you know that you have assumed their thought, and because your assumption was natural, sustained, and true to you, it was received. The seed was sown, and it cannot return void. This is not done once and forgotten. It is a dwelling place. You do not imagine one moment and deny the next. You do not step in and out of the state depending on appearances. You persist. You continue to know. And as you do, the outer world yields. It yields not because of force, but because of law. The law is simple. Whatever you assume to be true, if persisted in, hardens into fact. They do not resist your assumption. There is no opposition in the field of consciousness. There is only acceptance or doubt. Choose acceptance. Choose to believe that you are central to their thoughts, that you are the one they find themselves thinking of without cause, the one they feel drawn to with no logical explanation. And as you choose, you radiate a presence. Others may not see it, but they will feel it. You become magnetic not by effort, but by identity. To assume they are thinking of you is to step beyond appearances and dwell in truth. Not the truth of circumstance, but the truth of being. You are not separate. You are not forgotten. You are always in communion, whether you are conscious of it or not. The moment you claim that you are remembered, that you are loved, that you are on their mind now and always, that very moment the unseen begins to organize itself around your new self-concept. You are not waiting for their thought, you are establishing it. And so you walk in that confidence. You no longer check the phone with anxiety. You no longer look to the outer world for reassurance. You are reassured by the inner knowing. You have assumed it. And because you have assumed, it must be. Not because of what they do, but because of what you are. Their thoughts are a mirror, and you are the face. Feeling is the secret. Thought without feeling is barren. It is the feeling that gives it life, that clothes it in substance, that presses it upon the subconscious mind where all creation is conceived. You may think of a thing all day long and nothing will come of it. But the moment you feel it to be true, the moment you embrace it emotionally, dwell in it with inner conviction, that is the moment it begins to manifest. The subconscious does not respond to words. It responds to the mood, the tone, the feeling behind those words. If your desire is to be loved, to be remembered, to be desired by a specific person, you must not merely think of it, you must feel it. You must feel what it would be like were it already true. When you imagine your specific person thinking of you, do not observe them from a distance as though you were watching a play unfold. Instead, feel the reality of their presence. Feel the warmth of being wanted. Feel the familiarity of hearing their voice say your name. Let the joy rise in you as though the thing desired were already yours. And do not try to force the feeling. Rather, gently yield to it. Let it come naturally as you surrender to the scene within. Do not attempt to analyze it. Do not worry about technique. Simply enter the state and feel from it. There's a vast difference between thinking of a state and thinking from it. When you think of being loved, you are separate from it, watching it from afar, hoping one day it might come. But when you think from being loved, you feel its reality now. You walk as one already chosen, already held in someone's thoughts. And because you feel it, you impress it. And because you impress it, the world must express it. Do not seek the outer sign. Seek only the inner assurance. And that assurance will not come from logic, nor from reasoning, but from feeling. A quiet knowing will fill you, a stillness in which all questions vanish. You will know you have impressed your desire upon the depth of your being when the desire no longer feels distant, but already yours. You no longer long for it. You feel it. And in feeling it, you possess it. The creative act is emotional, not mechanical. You do not impress the subconscious by saying they love me if the feeling behind those words is one of lack or disbelief. You might repeat the words 1,000 times, but if you are doing so with fear, with anxiety, with doubt, you are feeding the very state you wish to leave. But if you say it once, and in saying it you feel the thrill of its truth, you have planted the seed. When you lie down to sleep at night, let your last thoughts be filled with the feeling of fulfillment. Feel them thinking of you. Feel them smiling when your name crosses their mind. Feel the certainty that you are not only loved, you are the one they cannot forget. This feeling, if real to you, is the key. It is not the words you use, not the length of the scene, but the emotional acceptance of it as fact. And as you fall asleep in that state, you impress it deeper still. The world moves not by chance, but by mood. You attract not what you want, but what you are conscious of being. You must ask yourself, not what do I desire, but how would I feel if it were already mine? The answer to that question is the only work you need to do. You feel it real and persist in that feeling until it becomes your natural dwelling place. And when it becomes natural, it becomes visible. You are not at the mercy of others. You are not waiting for them to change, to remember you, to desire you. You are selecting a new state and feeling from it. And that feeling calls forth its reflection. The outer world is always echoing your inner tone. Change the tone, and the echo must change. You do not manipulate others. You awaken in them what you have accepted as true. They become what you have imagined and felt them to be. So you must make the feeling more real than the facts. The facts may tell you they are silent. The facts may show you absence. But you do not feel facts, you feel the end. You feel the union, you feel the love. And in feeling that, you transcend the scene. You rise above appearances and claim your inheritance. The secret is not action, not repetition, not outer behavior. The secret is feeling. for feeling is the doorway through which creation enters the world. Mental conversations create reality, not merely influence it or suggest it. They create it. Every word spoken inwardly, every thought you carry with feeling is a thread in the fabric of your world. You may believe that your inner talk is private, that what you say in imagination stays locked away, but nothing spoken in consciousness is ever lost. What you whisper to yourself in silence will one day shout back at you from the world. There is no idle thought. There is no neutral word. Each word you speak in the silence of your own mind, especially those spoken to or about another, is a seed cast into the fertile soil of the subconscious. If you carry on conversations with your specific person, in imagination conversations where you are misunderstood, dismissed, rejected, then do not be surprised when those very tones are echoed in your reality. But if your inner dialogue is harmonious, full of warmth and connection, if you hear them calling your name in love, if you feel the natural rhythm of affection and closeness in that inner world, then the outer world must mirror that sound. You do not beg for love, you speak it into being. When you carry on a conversation in imagination, you are not pretending, you are creating. You are not hoping, you are constructing the blueprint from which the outer experience must unfold. Every inner word spoken with feeling sets a mold. The person you think of, the one you long to hear from, is not separate from you. They live in your consciousness, and when you commune with them there, you are not talking to a shadow. You are talking to the essence of who they are in your reality. You do not need to reach out to them through physical means to be heard. The inner man hears. The subconscious receives. They may not recall the conversation in words, but they will feel it. They will find themselves moved, drawn, stirred in a direction they cannot explain. They will say, I don't know why, but I just had to speak to you. Or, you were on my mind and I couldn't shake the feeling, but you will know. You will remember the conversation had in silence, the words spoken in faith, the tone of voice, the laughter, the love, and you will know it was not imagination in the way the world defines it, but imagination as divine communication. You are always talking inwardly. From the moment you wake until you sleep, and even in the depths of dreams, you are conversing with yourself and with others. You are casting roles, assigning motives, anticipating responses. The world only acts out the script you have written within. If you speak to someone in your mind and accuse them, fear their absence, imagine conflict, or suspect betrayal, then even without their conscious knowledge, they will be compelled to conform to that role. Not because they chose it, but because you did. But change the conversation, and you change the relationship. Speak now, within, as one already loved. Hear them tell you how much they miss you. Feel the joy of being heard, understood, cherished. Let your words in imagination be full of gratitude and certainty. Do not ask questions. Hear the answer already given. Do not plead for affection. Feel the warmth of already being adored. This is not fantasy. This is prayer. This is the inner creative act that precedes every outer manifestation. And do not be deceived by appearances. The delay between inner speech and outer echo is only the time required for the subconscious to bring form to the formless. But once impressed, it must come. If you persist in hearing only what you desire to hear, regardless of what the world says, that persistence will bear fruit. Others may say you are delusional. Let them speak. You are not seeking validation. You are creating reality. And reality bends to the sustained tones of the inner world. So take time each day to commune with the one you love, not by message, not by action, but by inner conversation. Sit in silence and hear them speak to you. Feel the softness of their voice, the sincerity in their eyes, the recognition that you are one. Let these conversations be so real, so vivid, that you walk through your day as one who is already fulfilled. And the world, unable to resist the power of your assumption, will yield to your vision. The world does not initiate, it responds, and it responds most faithfully to the quiet, persistent, and heartfelt words spoken in imagination. Live in the end. Do not strive toward it. Do not wait for signs. Do not look to the world for permission. Begin now by claiming the end is already accomplished, already yours, already lived. To live in the end is not to hope, but to know. It is not to reach, but to rest. You do not ask, will it come? You walk in the conviction that it already has. You breathe the air of fulfillment. You feel the joy that accompanies the answered prayer, and in doing so you draw it into form. Your specific person is not someone to win, to chase, to change. They are already yours in the realm of imagination, and if you would only dwell in that end, not occasionally, not conditionally, but with unwavering devotion, the outer world would move to reflect your assumption. The delay is never in the law, but in your acceptance. The moment you accept the end as real, the bridge of incidents begins. Events unfold in ways you could never predict, but all are drawn to fulfill your inner conviction. To live in the end is to abandon the middle. You do not concern yourself with how. The how belongs to the unseen. Your task is to assume the tone of the wish fulfilled. How would you feel if they were already thinking of you, already calling, already holding you with deep affection? That feeling is the key. That feeling is the door. You enter the state not through effort, but through acceptance. You surrender the old story, the waiting, the separation, and take up the garment of fulfillment. When you live in the end, you begin to respond differently to the world. You no longer chase after signs, because the end has no need of confirmation. You do not fear silence, because in the end they are already yours. You do not react to the past, because you have moved beyond it. You are no longer the version of yourself who was forgotten, overlooked, or rejected. You are now the one who is remembered, chosen, and adored. And that inner identity calls forth its likeness in the world around you. You may think you must do something to make them come, but I tell you, you must become something. You must become the version of yourself for whom this love is already a fact. When you imagine being with them, do not imagine being in lack or desire. Imagine from the state where there is no distance, no confusion, no delay. See yourself in the moment after the desire has been fulfilled. What does life feel like now? What does your mind do when it is no longer occupied with longing? What peace arises when you no longer wonder if they care, because you know? This is the secret. To dwell in that knowing until it becomes more familiar than the absence. The world may not shift instantly, but your inner atmosphere will. And the world, being only a mirror, must follow. But it cannot reflect what you have not claimed. You do not get what you want, you get what you are. And to live in the end is to become the fulfilled version of yourself now. That self has no questions. That self does not rehearse outcomes or demand reassurance. That self rests. You must withdraw your attention from what is and place it upon what is desired as if it were already fact. When doubt arises, do not argue with it. Return to the end. Let the feeling of fulfillment quiet every fear. Let the vision of union dissolve every trace of separation. You are not escaping reality, you are creating it. The world of facts is only the echo of past imaginal activity. But the world to come, that which you call the future, is being shaped now by the state you occupy. Choose wisely then the mood you accept as natural. They are already thinking of you in the end. They are already loving you in the end. They are already reaching out, already beside you, already yours. The more you walk in the state, the more real it becomes. You will begin to see signs, not because you ask for them, but because your state has shifted. You will feel their energy without needing proof. You will know without asking. And that knowing will summon the outer world to reflect your new assumption, not because you chased it, but because you lived in the end. Persistence in assumption brings results. Not mere wishing, not hopeful effort, not occasional imagining, but steadfast, unwavering assumption, carried through with feeling, believed despite appearances, clung to in silence, even when the facts deny it. That is the secret. The world is not moved by a single act of imagination unless that act is sustained and repeated in the spirit of certainty. The assumption you do not let go of becomes your reality, not because it persuades others to change, but because it changes you. And when you change your inner state, the outer world must bend in obedience to it. It is not enough to assume once and look around to see if anything has happened. That is not faith, that is testing. And the one who tests has not yet believed. The one who believes knows that what is seen is but the shadow of what has been imagined. The true act is performed within, and its results, though delayed by the mechanisms of time and unfolding, are already secure. You persist not because of desperation, but because you know you are planting in fertile soil, and the harvest must come. When you imagine your specific person thinking of you, feeling drawn to you, reaching out in love, and you do so with feeling, you are impressing that state upon the subconscious. But if you imagine it today, then entertain doubt tomorrow, you uproot the seed. If you say, they are mine in imagination, but then contradicted by fear, by checking, by wondering, by hoping, then you are declaring two masters and one cancels the other. The world cannot bring to you what you do not consistently hold as true within yourself. You must persist. You must return again and again to the end, not to escape what is, but to establish what must be. And when you persist, something begins to shift within you. The assumption moves from wish to fact, from a thing hoped for to a state known. You walk through the world as one who is already remembered, already loved, already chosen. That shift in identity is what produces change. Not the words you say, but the being you become. Do not be deceived by appearances. The facts of life are nothing more than hardened assumptions. What you see today was imagined, perhaps unconsciously, yesterday. If it displeases you, change your assumption and persist in it until it displaces the old reality. This is not pretending. This is creation. You are not fooling yourself. You are instructing your subconscious. And your subconscious shapes your world without effort, without struggle, without noise. It works in silence, and it is always working. Feed it the truth you wish to experience and persist. You do not need to know how it will happen. You do not need to see the steps. You only need to know the end and stay there, hold to it as though it were already visible. That is the labor, that is the fate. If you waver, return. If you forget, remember again. If doubt whispers, answer it with feeling. The one who persists with emotion, with clarity, with conviction, holds the key. It is not given to the one who merely touches the state and withdraws. It is given to the one who lives in it, breathes in it, moves through the world clothed in it. You may be tempted to give up. The outer world may contradict your assumption. Time may test your resolve. But if you persist, you override all contradiction. You rewrite the script. You remove the power from appearances and grant it to your inner knowing. The world cannot hold out against one who refuses to be moved from their vision. The outer man may shake, but the inner man remains still. And that stillness, that inner determination, calls the unseen into form. They will think of you because you have assumed they already do. They will feel drawn to you because you have persisted in the feeling of being wanted. They will speak your name because in your inner world you never stopped hearing it. You persisted. not with strain, not with effort, but with calm repetition, with faithful inner vision. And the law cannot fail. What you assume and continue to assume must externalize. It is not personal, it is not emotional, it is principle. You assumed and you persisted, and because of that, it is done. Everyone is yourself pushed out. The world you walk through, the people you meet, the voices you hear, the glances you receive, they are not independent from you. They are not acting according to their own laws. They are not sovereign minds detached from your own. They are images cast by your assumptions, reflections of your inner state, actors playing out the roles you assign to them within the theater of your imagination. There is no other. There is only self, extended and expressed through every circumstance of your life. You cannot meet a stranger. You cannot encounter an event that is not first born in the womb of your own consciousness. All things are generated from within and then outfitted as life. That which you assume of another, you breathe into their being. You whisper in silence and they speak it aloud. You feel in secrecy and they act it out. For everyone, without exception, is yourself pushed out. They are the mirror of the mood you wear. If you say they ignore me, you are not describing them, you are defining yourself, and then projecting that definition onto the screen of the world. And since your inner speech is law, they must reflect what you believe. You see rejection because you have assumed rejection. You feel forgotten because in imagination, you abandon yourself first. But the moment you change your concept of them, and more importantly, your concept of self, they must take on the new mask. They do not resist, they only echo. There is no need to convince another to love you. You need only assume that you are lovable. If you dwell in the state of being adored, the one you desire must play the role. They have no choice but to meet the self you have accepted as true, for their actions are the outpicturing of your belief. And belief is not a matter of repetition. It's a matter of identification. Who do you feel yourself to be? Not who do you want to be, but who do you accept that you are? That answer shapes every interaction, every relationship, every encounter in your world. Even the coldest glance, the longest silence, the most painful memory, all of it arose from a prior assumption. And so it can be changed. It must be changed, not by effort, not by pleading, but by revision. You turn within and you see them anew. You do not ask them to act differently. You assume that they already have. You do not wait for them to speak your name. You hear it now in the stillness of your mind, and you respond from that place. They will echo what you persist in hearing within. The world is not separate from you. It is not reacting to your thoughts. It is being shaped by your states of consciousness. You do not observe a world that exists. You create it in every moment by the ideas you accept as true. And those around you, the ones you love, the ones you struggle to understand, they are all showing you something you believe about yourself. They are not to be blamed, and they are not to be worshipped. They are you, made visible. This truth is not easy to accept when the mirror shows you what you do not like. But the moment you recognize that the image can be changed, that it responds to you, that you are the cause, you become free. You are no longer bound to reactions. You are no longer chasing or correcting. You are selecting. You are assuming. And in that assumption, you are changing the world. When you understand that everyone is yourself pushed out, you cease to take things personally. You no longer ask why someone did this or failed to do that. You know the answer lies within. And so you turn inward, not with guilt, but with power. You say, if they have turned from me, I must assume again that I am turned toward. If they are silent, I must feel again that I am heard. If they are cold, I must assume that I am the warmth they remember. And the moment that assumption becomes natural, the reflection must follow. You are not separate from what you seek. The specific person you long to connect with is responding to the image you hold. They are pushed out from the self you now claim. And when you revise that self, when you accept yourself as loved, remembered, chosen, wanted, then they must conform to that new truth. For everyone, whether they know it or not, is only playing the part you have written in imagination. You are the author, and the world performs your inner word. The whole of life is yourself made visible. There is no separation, no distance, no one to change but self. When you discover this truth and dare to live by it, you step into the only power that creates. The specific person you long for, the connection you seek, the nearness you crave, it is not outside of you. It begins and ends within your own wonderful imagination. It begins when you speak in silence, feel in stillness, and persist in the unseen. And it ends not in loss or longing, but in fulfillment made manifest. You do not need signs, you do not need proof. You only need to feel it real and persist. Feel as if it were true, speak as though it already is. Walk through your day as the one already remembered, already chosen, already loved. Let the inner conversation be sweet. Let the assumption be firm. Let the end become the only reality you accept, and the world will yield, not because you forced it, but because it must reflect the image held within. They are thinking of you now, not because you hope, but because you have assumed it. They are remembering you now, not because you chased, but because you dwell in the state where you have always been known. There is no more striving, no more waiting, only assuming and living from that assumption, calmly, faithfully, joyfully. So take your attention away from what is, place it upon what must be, and know that what must be is what you have dared to feel as already true. That is your great work. And when you do it faithfully, the world cannot help but show you the face of your own assumption. All things respond, for all things are yourself pushed out.